Yep. Give me a nod when you're ready.
Like
Shooter's ready. Stand by.
Hello, everyone. This is Matt Gunlock from 3GIQ Podcast. I'm joined here today with George Dorbert. He's an avid three-gunner. He's, been in the sport since the Three Gun Nation days. He's a good friend of mine. I met him a couple years ago, and we kind of just kicked it off from there. Also, a really good friend of Ian Norse as well. So kind of like that whole Pennsylvania crowd travels together type deal. So, George, can you kind of give us an introduction of yourself?
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me on here. I really appreciate it. You taking the time to talk to me about myself and shooting sports. I'm blessed because there's a pretty tight core Pennsylvania group that travels around, and they kind of accepted me into the fold, even though I'm in Maryland. I'm real close to the Mason-Dixon line, so they kind of bring me in, and I hang out with those guys all the time, and we shoot together. So it's a good time. But like I said, my name's George Dorbert. I've been shooting for a good while, and you made me feel old when you brought up about Three Gun Nation. I thought, damn, that sounds like it was so long ago. But what a really neat organization when it was around. They did a fantastic job with really evolving the sport and getting it out there on the main front and getting it in the public view with it being on MAV TV. On that TV channel Lucas Oil has, and running the pro series on there and allowing people to see what competitive shooting's all about. And they had some issues there towards the end, but man, what a great program to really get three gun and get the shooting sports promoted and get it out in the public view.
Well, I'll be the first one to say I wouldn't be here in this community if it wasn't for Three Gun Nation. So,
Right.
It did a lot of good within the community.
Yes.
A lot of people wouldn't have been, the episodes where James Gill, that's kind of where I found out, hey, there's Marines doing this, and it gave me the opportunity to jump into it. And that's kind of where I got my start. So I'm thankful for what they have done for the community.
What a badass, that James Gill that you just mentioned. I love watching him shoot, and I love the tenacity that he has and the attack he has on stages. And guy's just a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah, no, his mental game and just watching him attack those stages, it's like nothing you've ever seen. He, for a guy who has one leg and one eye, he can just attack it, and he's better than guys with two eyes and two legs. It's amazing.
It's funny you say that, because one day at work, and I went back to work like on a Monday or Tuesday after a major match, and when the guy said, "Well, how'd you do?" I said, "Well, I got my ass kicked by a guy with one eye and one leg." I said, "How do you think it went?" They started laughing. They thought it was hysterical, but they don't understand how good of a shooter he is and how good of a competitor he is. And it's a compliment to him and how he shoots and how he carries himself in the match and on the stages. The guy's just phenomenal.
Oh yeah. No. So you kind of mentioned it, but you're a firefighter by trade, right?
Yes, sir. I work for the Department of Defense for the United States Army, civilian there in emergency services. I'll have 25 years coming up here in July. So I'm counting down my time. I'm going to go till next July, and then I'm going to retire. I did like 20 and a half years on the operations side with suppression. I was a truck company captain, and I had some injuries that really set me back and made it tough at work. So I said, I'm going to ride out like my last 5 years over in prevention and inspection. So now I'm a fire inspector. I just travel around, do code enforcement stuff, building inspections, that kind of stuff. And it's a pretty sweet little gig. I go out, I do my inspections, put my reports in, I go to the gym, and then I go home. So it's not bad. I don't have to do the nights and the weekends and holidays anymore. So I'm thankful for that. I wish I would have done it sooner. My kids are younger. Because I missed so much of them growing up, doing shift work and working holidays and nights and weekends and all that. I wish I'd have done it a lot sooner.
Yeah, no, I feel for you there, you know. I'm I'm glad for the opportunities that I've had, but a lot of the opportunities I've had have taken me away from my daughter. You
Right.
know, I can easily say since she was born, I spent the majority of my time either in the field, overseas, or traveling the country shooting three gun. And I'm thankful for everything that the Marine Corps has offered and given me. But, you know, there was a period of time where uh, I just didn't have, I wasn't necessarily there for her the way I could have been.
Right. Yeah, I get
But
that, man. And I tell you, I know, I can't imagine what a long extended deployment would be like, because I felt like I'd come home every other day and it was like my kids were doubling in size.
mhm.
And it was like how they grow up that fast. And I couldn't imagine. And I was fortunate that, I'd be away for 24 hours at a time, a 24-hour shift, but I couldn't imagine being deployed 6 months, 8 months, a year, extended deployment, stuff like that. And I really appreciate everything that our American servicemen and women do for us, and I hope that everyone who thinks about them appreciate what they do for us and the sacrifices that they make.
We and you know honestly we do appreciate that, and you know you kind of made remind me of something like the long deployments and stuff like that. So you know, my last one that I went on, I had the opportunity to fly to England and spend time with my wife and her family over in England. That's where she's
Okay.
from. And I remember getting off the plane and going to baggage claim. And I hadn't seen my daughter in 11 months.
Wow.
And, you know, just seeing her eyes light up, like she had no idea that I was going to be there. And she was 3, almost 4 at the time, and just her eyes really lit up, and like that was the moment I knew that it was like, okay, I'm ready for this whole time overseas to be done and over with, and I'm ready to just be home. And like that was kind of whenever I made the decision, like, hey, it's you know, this is my last enlistment, and
Right.
I'm ready to retire after this enlistment, because like there's nothing more special than seeing your daughter and your daughter seeing you, and the eyes light up, and it's like, I'm home.
Right. And I'm not, I wouldn't say that it's easier now, but technology has made it
Hmm.
a little more tolerable with FaceTime and that kind of stuff. I mean, when my kids were growing, I'm a good bit older, but when my kids were growing up, we didn't have that stuff. It was like you had a telephone, you had a
Yep.
wall mounted telephone, and you had
Yep.
to call them on the phone and talk to them. And trying to talk to little kids with an attention span of 0 is tough. You might get high, daddy, and then it would be silence,
Yep.
and you got to just talk to try to pull stuff out of them. And that was tough, but I enjoyed every one of those phone conversations. And I would have loved to have had FaceTime and that kind of stuff. Like my youngest daughter's a freshman in college now, and she'll FaceTime my wife, and I'll say, "How come you never FaceTime me?" She says, "Because you're usually with mom, so I just FaceTime her." But she never FaceTimes me. It's always my wife. So then I got to put my head in the camera, like this, and lean over so she can see me. But it's just my kids grew up with my wife one day. I was home on half the time, so
Yeah.
um, my wife is number one, and dad's like second fiddle. So, when they need something, if mom says no, then they come to me. But my wife is their top priority, and I get that, and I appreciate the fact that everything she sacrificed and did for them, when I wasn't there. So, and you get that, you're away,
Yeah.
so our spouses are the true heroes. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, you know, I'll have to say thank you for, you know, they call you guys second responders, but we couldn't be safe for the stuff that you guys do for us back home. You know.
Yeah, the only ones that call us the second responders are the cops, who are the first responders, so they can secure the scene. But they do that as a joke. We get along with each other. Like my main station that I'm at, the police are in our building, so there's some rivalries there. We laugh and we joke. I think it's funny, the second responder thing, but I will say that it is very unique, working on a military installation and working for emergency services there, and seeing the soldiers and the testing and everything that goes on where I'm at. And it makes me appreciate living here in America, and what we have and how fortunate we are, for sure.
No, thank you. Thank you for everything you do.
Yep.
So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. So how long have you been shooting three gun now?
Oh gosh, I want to say I shot my first three gun match sometime around 2012 or 2013. It was kind of it was like a little local club thing. The actual first three-man three gun was started in York, and it was like a bragging rights type thing. There was no prize table, there was no trophies, and it was I started shooting with like some steel challenge stuff at my local club with the 22, and I was like, man, there's got to be something cooler than this. So then I started researching online, and I found USPSA up at York, in a little club in York, PA, and so I went up there and I shot like two USPSA matches. Had no clue what I was doing, but the guys were, really supportive and helpful. And they said, "Hey, we're going to start shooting this three gun thing." I was like, "What the heck is that?" And they said, "Well, it's three guns, so it's three times the fun." I said, "Oh, okay, count me in." So I showed up with what I had, and of course, being three gun what it is, people loan you stuff with gear and stuff like that. And they said, "Hey, we're going to do this three-man three gun, get a team together." I said, "Okay." So I grabbed two guys from work who like to shoot and just mess around, have fun. And we went up there, and not knowing, we were shooting iron sighted rifles, and struggling, trying to thumb load shotgun shells in there. We had no clue what we were doing, but we had a great time. The guys loved it, but they didn't have the same passion and commitment that I had, and I stuck with it. And they'll watch stuff and they'll ask how matches were, but they just like to go out and have fun recreationally. But they won't go out and shoot any more matches, but I wish they would. But that's kind of how I got into it. And then from there, man, it was like being bitten by a bug, because I couldn't stop doing it. It's all I could think of. While I was at work, I'd be up all night watching YouTube videos, old Three Gun Nation matches, when they were outlaw matches, and they would travel around. And then when they started to organize and have the pro series and that, and watch Greg Jordan and Daniel Horner and Joe Pitha and Jesse Tischauer and all those guys. And it was just, I said, I want to do that. And I love it. I don't care if I'm last place or if I'm mid pack or if I win. No matter what, me being out on the range is kind of like a stress reliever. And I just love being out there, because it's about the people you shoot with more than it is the shooting.
Yep.
I've made some serious friends that I might see once a year, but when I see them on the range, it's like we hug each other like we saw each other the day before. I mean, just pick up right where we left off, and it's just that camaraderie with the other shooters is what it's all about for me.
No, I'm with you there. Like,
Yep.
Obviously we always want to try and do really well. We want to finish our best, but
Right.
where it truly comes to play is how we are with the other people that are around us.
Yes.
Whether you're with a squad you've never shot with and you don't know how they're going to be and what type of people they're going to be, by the end of it, you're all best friends.
Right. You're right about that. I tell you, there's two guys that we text each other or call each other on a daily basis, and I probably get 20, 30 texts from these guys daily. And I met them. One guy, Eric Leopold, met him. I think Eric. I met him at the OG Tar Heel three gun challenge back when it used to be at Woody's. He messaged me. He was like, "Hey man, we're in the same squad, and I see you're a fireman. I'm a fireman." He's like, "You want to hang out?" I was like, "Sure." And we've been like best friends since that day. And then Mike Gregorio is another guy. He's a first responder up in New York, and same thing. We met. I think it might have been one of the old FN matches, and he came down to help RO, and he would drive like 4 hours to shoot a club match at York, just because there wasn't any three gun up there. But another guy who fantastic. Just, I mean, we talk to each other every day. I mean, it's just, you meet a lot of awesome people in this community, in this sport, for sure.
No, you're right. It's a beautiful thing. And Eric, he is an outstanding individual, just one of the most genuine individuals I've met. Like,
you're being nice, man. That guy's a pain in the ass. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, I remember last year at Mountain State, three gun championship. I think it was the first time I really sat down and just talked to him, and like, we acted like we had known each other for a long time, and it was just really refreshing to see how people are around each other. And he's just a great person.
He's a good guy. Yeah, that was a good match. I like that match. It was a really unique shooting here in West Virginia. My first time at that club, and The stages were really cool. I had a good time shooting a match. I mean, it's a hidden gem for sure.
It reminded me kind of like a lot of the old school three gun nation matches.
Right.
The way they were set up.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of fast closed targets, but then there were some extended targets that you had to really slow down and engage. And I liked it. It was a lot of good options, and even some of those real large open bays and some of that natural terrain type bay stuff was really neat. Just the way they had the different options in there.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that match. That was my first time shooting it, but it was one of those tough things where it was during my anniversary. So it was my anniversary that weekend. And my wife has never gone to a 3-gun match. And I was like, hey, look, let's go to West Virginia. We'll check it out. She was like, why? I said, because I want to shoot a match down there. And she said, oh, I knew it was something. So I was like, look, we're not doing nothing. We don't have anything planned. Let's just go. So we went, and she was talking to Chris Donahue's wife the whole time. So she did have someone to sit and talk to, and she enjoyed talking to her. So it made it a little more easier for me back in the hotel. But she said, I'll never go again. She said, I was bored sitting there, just watching you, because she's very type A. She wants to, if she's going to do something, she wants to do it. She doesn't just want to sit and watch. So, she won't shoot in front of other people. Like, she doesn't want to compete, but she likes to go to the range. But yeah.
So
sorry, I'm getting off topic. Yeah.
Oh, you're good. So, we all have goals and we have things that we want to achieve. What are some things that you're looking to accomplish this year?
My number one goal, no matter what year it is to always give back to the sport. Whether it's ROing major matches or ROing, local club matches, or helping out with, being a sponsor coordinator for a local club match series, and or helping logistically with the IWI point series. Doing rules, writing rules, that kind of stuff. I always want to give back. So that's like my number one priority, no matter what it is. My number one goal is to give back and help new shooters, because I was fortunate enough to have a lot of knowledgeable people help me along the way and teach me. So I'm not saying that what I help other people with it is the right thing for them, but it's just one way or one other tool for them to explore and try. But I really appreciate the folks that help me, so I try to give back. So that's like my number one goal every year. My other goal is to keep, I started doing this 22 PRS thing, and I love it. There's like no reset, but it has helped my long range 3-gun shooting tremendously. Because in the 22 PRS game, you're 90-second part time, but you're building a position either on a rooftop or a barricade or out of a truck bed or things like that. So it really helps with your 3-gun long range, because shooting at 22 in wind is tough. So when you get in on your 3-gun rifle, you don't fight the wind as much, but you are fighting it a little bit. So learning that 22 game has really helped me, and that's something I want to keep improving on for the upcoming season. And I want to try to shoot as much of that as I can.
No, I'm with you there. That's something I want to get more into. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
But it's
I think they have a match at the Mars series. Yeah,
they have one at Quantico, right? They do.
And that's a good match from what I hear, because there's a lot of wind on that range, and it makes it tough to shoot that match.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. One of the things I did for Battle for the South, like I just happened to have my 22 rifle with me in the truck. So while I was in RO, I was just, whenever I was waiting for another squad to come on deck, I just brought the 22 out there, and there was a target out at 166 yards. I was like, let's just plink on this. And so, I think I dialed like 8.4 mils up, something along those lines. And, we were having gusts up to 30, 40 mile per hour winds at times.
Your stage had some wind on it, man. It was, and you talk about a right to left strong wind. It was tough on that stage. There was a windsock out there. Was it like 400 yards? Yep. It was just straight out when I shot it.
Yeah. It's as if it was made that way just to stay straight. That's how it was the entire day. But,
it's crazy.
I hit the target, probably 8 out of the 10 times with the 22. I was like, oh, cool. I'm happy, 166 yard target and 30 mile per hour gusts, and I'm able to hit the target. All right, I'm good. Got my fundamentals down.
That's, for me, that's like the number one goal, is to always expand my knowledge and never feel like I have learned everything or know everything, because you can become complacent. So
Mhm.
doing that 22 PRS, a lot of guys will shoot USPSA, things like that. I encourage anybody to just do different shooting sports. Whether it's PCC matches or it's steel challenge, just to work on your eye movement from target to target acquisition, things like that. I think that's very beneficial to shooters, especially new shooters and even seasoned shooters. And I hope that people don't just say, "Oh, I'm going to shoot 3-gun and that's it." I mean, when you start shooting other sports, you see how much it improves your 3-gun game. And 3-gun for me will always be top dog, but the other shooting sports are very beneficial.
No, no, you're right. And I think it's important that we do invest the time into the different disciplines and the different sports out
Right.
there. Because one, it does help them, but it also gives them an opportunity to see what our skills are, and it
Right.
allows us to grow our own community. But then it just you elevate your own game by what you have to perform there, and you can bring those skills back to our own sport.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because like I'll shoot a PR of one of those 22 PRS matches, and the guy will look at me and say, "You shoot 3-gun?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "How do you know?" He said, "Well, you still got 45 seconds left on the par time." These guys, and I forget that if you want to stretch out that par time to 90 seconds. There's usually like one time stage, like a tiebreaker stage, where you want to get on the gas, but for the most part, you want to build that shooting position. You want to get in and get on that rifle and the optic, and make sure you're getting your hits. And I forget, and I'm like just going as fast as I can, and then I'll say, "Well, that was dumb, because I could have had 3 good shots and got 3 more points if I would have just slowed down and maximize that par time." But then when you do have that time stage, the 3-gun
It
speed
kicks
really
in.
helps out. Yeah,
Yep.
it kicks in and helps out. At the Mars 22 finale last October down at the Northern Virginia Gun Club, there was a stage where the fastest time with the most hits and points won a donated liquor bottle. It was a bottle of Screwball peanut butter whiskey.
Mm.
And I shoot in the semi-auto division, so which a lot of guys scoff at, because I there's something about a semi-auto. The bolt gun is just too slow for me. But man, I got on there and I worked. It was like 5 different shooting positions, and I'd break a shot and I'd hop the next one. I cleaned it. I went 8 for 8, and I want to say that my time was like 25 seconds or something like that. I just smoked guys, and the bolt gun guys were a little pissed, but it's because I shoot 3-gun a lot, and I just had that mentality: move, 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 shoot, move, shoot, move, shoot, move. And I liked winning that whiskey. I don't drink, but family members have enjoyed it, so it was fun.
Well, I will
Yeah.
say, before we jumped on here, I made myself a whiskey sour. I had it for the first time yesterday with some
Uh-huh.
Blade and Bow, and I was like, okay, this is my new drink of choice. Like, perfect. So,
Is this where like I insert like a chick
no,
drink comment or something like that?
no.
old people
Most-
at the wedding drink comment or something. My dad loves whiskey. So he'll go to a wedding. He loves whiskey sours, that and fuzzy navels, and I kind of snicker and laugh at him.
never had a fuzzy navel, and I don't think I want to try.
Yeah. No, I'd say, I used to like drink beer, and I don't know anymore. I just got to the point where I said one year, I said, I'm going to quit drinking soda, quit drinking beer, and see if I can lose some weight and quit eating candy. Candy's like, I don't smoke and I don't chew. So candy's like my bad vice. But I went a whole year with no drinking soda or beer. I only lasted like 8 months with candy. I was like, I got to eat some candy. I was just going through like some sugar withdrawal. And I said, I understand what addicts feel like now, because I needed that candy. But yeah, and ever since then, I just said, I don't need a drink now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I'm the same way. Like most of the time, I can go a full year without even thinking about drinking.
Right.
But with alcohol, I don't have that addictive personality. With nicotine, on the other hand, sure, yeah, I have a dip in my mouth
And
all day, every day. But
yeah, and that's a tough thing for guys that are in our field, military, law enforcement, fire service, stuff like that. It's you develop those bad habits, like you said, and they're hard because it's I don't want to say a crutch, but it can really take away some of the negative things that we see all the time. And some of that stress, and I get how guys become addicted. And my grandfather was an alcoholic, so that's one of the things. Like my dad, he never drank because of my grandfather, and I just, I went through a phase through high school, college, and stuff like that where I drank a lot, but then I just got to the point where I said, yeah, I don't need this. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't. It's not like I don't condone it or anything, but I just
It's not something that's important to you.
Yeah, just personal choice to me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I still eat candy. I still like the Swedish Fish and the Sour Patch Kids, but
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like if I'm with a bunch of buddies or something, I might have AB or something like that, but it's not. Half the time I drink half of it and dump the rest. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't drink much. When I do, it's usually after a match, something like that. But before a match, no alcohol. And that's one of the things that we kind of implemented on the team as well. None of us will drink a lick of alcohol before any match, just because it'll take away that competitive edge.
Right.
You don't want to introduce something into your body that you haven't really had in a while, and it'll just dull the senses, and like I said, it takes away that competitive edge. I don't know what it is about it, but that's how it is, and that's how we treat it. It's like, don't touch it, wait until after the match.
Well, a big thing for me is I'm fortunate. I have a Maryland concealed carry permit, which is like, selling your firstborn and your right kidney and giving up 6 teeth to get. And I don't want to lose that. So I when I'm with my family, I usually have my firearm with me because so much crazy stuff going on now that I don't want to be that guy who says, oh man, I could have done this if I would have had my handgun or whatever. And at first my wife was very opposed to me carrying around and stuff like that. And she said, well, why do you take it everywhere? And I started showing her things on the news, and I'd say, look what just happened here at a grocery store. Look what just happened here at the movies. Look what just happened here at the airport. Crazy people are going to do crazy things. And, my main goal is you and the girls. My top priority is protecting them. And so I just got to the point where I said, all right, I can't drink if I'm carrying a gun. So I just stopped altogether. And once I retire and move, maybe I'll get back to drinking some Miller Lite and stuff like that. I'll try whiskey sour.
Yeah. So how do you train? And you just recently, this past year, I want to say it was like late last year, you kind of jumped into the open game. So
Yes.
How has the training been from shooting tac ops to transitioning over to open?
Oh wow. So I love tac ops. I mean, that's the only kind of division that was always recognized locally up here where I'm at. We had some open guys, but it was like 1 or 2 here and there, and they were never really counted towards any of the point series or stuff like that. So I always stayed a traditional tac ops guy. But I also felt like it was becoming stagnant, and I wanted to do something different. I shot tactical games back in 2020 at it was in northern Pennsylvania. Gosh, what was it?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that place was brutal, man. They do a lot of the I think the Army Ranger mountain training up there. And that place was brutal. It was tough. I mean, we did like a 2.5 or 2.25, 2.5 mile climb up this mountain. It was like almost hands and knees. The incline was so steep. And while I was doing that, I thought to myself, my heart's going to explode and I'm going to die, but at least I'm having fun doing it. And, so it got me to the point where I thought, this is fun doing something different. So I thought, I'm going to try something different for 3-gun. The Peacemaker Range in West Virginia, in northern West Virginia there, IWI was running a point series, and they had TAC Ops, which I shot the first year. Ian Norris won the TAC Ops division. I was second behind him. And I thought, man, I'm going to try open, and here's the place to try it, because it's not like it's a major match where it was more of like a club type series. So it was a good place to get your feet wet and try it. And I had a great time. And it was something new, and it was something different, and that's why I enjoyed it so much. So shot a hard-sighted pistol the first year, and then it moved from Peacemaker to different clubs here in Pennsylvania. So it's kind of like a Pennsylvania series now, but it's 5 different clubs that are involved. It's to try to keep people interested in the shooting sports and get people to not be complacent and shoot at one club, to have them move club to club, and to bring in some revenue for these smaller local clubs. So I think it's going to be a good thing, and it's going to be fun to do. So I thought to myself, I'm going to shoot open there. Matt Kitzmiller is there, and the guy just destroys everything in open. He's just phenomenal open shooter, and I have an opportunity to shoot with him and learn from him. So I thought, if I'm going to do it, now's the time. So I invested in some good open gear. Bought a dissonant shotgun from Mike and Lan over at Dissonant Arms, and I'm trying to piece together a red dot frame mounted pistol. I had an old 2011 style pistol that I had a local gunsmith mount a frame mount on it for me, and I've got a Vortex Razor on there. So I think the next thing for me is next year is to get a better handgun, better red dot handgun. But once I do that, I think it's full blown open for me, just because I'm getting old, and every year my eye prescription's changing, and so that's kind of how I got into it. I just wanted to do something different and explore different divisions. Like when Three Gun Nation was going on, man, I was like, heavy metal is it. I'm going to do heavy metal. I put together a nice 2A armament heavy metal rifle, AR-10 rifle. Got a nice Stoger pump shotgun. Borrowed my buddy's 45 because he had a 2011 style 45, and shot heavy metal. I think won 3 Gun Nation match and the Texas 3 Gun Championship, and then after that, 3 Gun Nation kind of went away. So now I have like heavy metal gear that, just because nobody locally supports heavy metal. There's not enough shooters. They're always worried about the steel, that kind of stuff.
I think Battle for the South is really the only recent match I saw that had.
Yeah. So recently. Matt Cowles just won that, and I was watching him shoot on Friday, and had I thought about it, I would have probably shot heavy metal there, just because I have all the stuff, and it would have been fun to do. But I do intend to get back down to the Texas 3 Gun Championship, and I know Jeremy Moore just started another 3 gun match down there. I cannot think of the name of it. Gosh, it's driving me nuts. I think the match may be coming up, or it just happened in March. I don't remember, but I do, if I ever get back to shooting heavy metal, it's going to be back in Texas, or maybe next year at Battle for the South. So it was, and I liked heavy metal, and now I like open. I mean, I think it's fun. It's fast. I like quad loading. I didn't have any problems quad loading, but I do like the mag changes. And I like the pistol dot, or I like the red dot on the shotgun. I like the side dot on my rifle. I got Vortex Razor dots on my shotgun and my rifle as an offset. And, those close paper targets with that offset red dot is nice. You don't have to worry about throwing your throw lever back down to 1 power or point shooting. So I think the open game is fun. I like it. It's definitely challenging. I just thought it was going to be easier to pick up and learn, but it is a lot more involved than I thought it was going to be, with trying to acquire the red dot on the pistol. I struggle with that, but the shotgun and rifle is easy to pick up because you got consistent cheek weld there. But everything else is basically easier to pick up, and a lot of that drive came from the 22 PRS stuff, because I was shooting with bipods a lot, and I was shooting with bags, and I thought, damn, I got all this stuff, I might as well just start shooting open and try open. And when I did that at the Peacemaker, I thought, this is fun. I like this. This is like super go fast drag race right here, and I like that.
So you mentioned Battle for the South and shooting that. And shooting it open. So being an open shooter, shooting for Battle for the South, how was that experience there? Wasn't that like one of your first major matches shooting open?
Yes, first major match shooting open, and it was a huge learning experience for me. I had some scheduling conflicts, so I couldn't shoot the match on Saturday and Sunday. So what I ended up doing was I got up at 3 a.m. to try to get ahead of the DC Northern Virginia traffic, and I drove down to Maxton there to the Griffin Group. It took me about 7 hours. And Jason Browley, the match director, said, "Hey man," he said, "you got to get your stuff together." He said, "I need to get you through these 2 stages right here because they were going to shut down the area where the plane was." He said, "I need you to get your stuff together." So it was kind of like right from the frying pan into the fire. The guys the ROs were shooting the stage already. They had like 3 shooters. So I basically was trying to watch what they were doing for my basic walkthrough. And I just went at it, and I had a good time. And it was fantastic. And I really appreciate what Jason did and Buddy Brown and accommodating me and let me shoot a couple stages on Friday. So I wouldn't have to shoot all day Saturday because it looked like I was going to have to shoot 8 stages Saturday and then drive through the night home. The guys down there are just phenomenal. They did a super job with trying to help me out and accommodate me, and I really appreciate what they did for me down there. But Battle of the South was a great match for being the first year. The guys who ran it are experienced guys, so they weren't figuring anything out. They had it already figured out, and in my opinion, everything was smooth. The ROs that they had were seasoned ROs that constantly RO matches. Yourself, Chris Weissman, Bob Osbeck, Pat Parker, Bill Richburg. Those guys, those guys are like OG North Carolina, 3-gun guys that are from way back in the Tar Heel days at Woody's. So they're probably the most experienced guys you'll ever see ROing. And it made the whole match smooth, in my opinion. Even with me shooting it like an accelerated format, it was good to see everybody, and I thought the flow was great, and I thought the stages were great, and just for being the first year match, the guys did a fantastic job.
Well, I have to, Jason and I had a conversation before the match even started, and I didn't necessarily shoot the match, trying to get over some injuries and whatnot and just stuff going on. But, just sitting there talking, and like me and Jason were putting signs out. He's like, one of the biggest things I'm trying to do here, is I'm thinking about what I like at other matches and trying to implement that into my match. And then I'm also thinking of what I didn't like seeing at matches and things I would do myself. And if I'm going to complain about something at another match, I'm going to have to make sure I don't fall into that same trap and I do exactly what I didn't like and put the stuff in there that's going to actually assist people. Simple stuff like putting signs out like, hey, this is where this is where registration is. This is where parking is. This is, you can roll right into the match, not exactly ever being there. And, you can go right to where registration is. You can go right where the camping is, because they had the RV parking there. You can go right into a parking spot.
There was good communication before the match started. The stage, the rules were put out. There was a Google Earth type map of where the stages were going to be, so competitors could see where the stages were going to be, and that was beneficial because I didn't realize that there were going to be 2 stages over on the other side where the plane was. I thought it was just going to be the airplane stage, but they also had that jungle run over there, which was really cool, having 2 jungle runs in one match. As far as like just the communication was fantastic. I mean, I didn't have any questions when I got there. I knew what the shooting matrix was going to be for the squads. I knew where the stages were. I knew the rules. And like you said, they had signage everywhere. Like every stage had a sign marking which stage number it was. Registration changed, and they said, hey, now it's going to be the Connex at the entrance to the range. There was a sign there. They logistically, they did a really good job with that match.
Yeah. And it was a match where you had a bit of everything. You had the classic base style stages. You had a couple of those. You had 3 long range stages, shooting out to, what was it, 640 yards, something like that.
There were a couple of targets that were 500 plus, like 550 plus. I mean, they were
560. I think it was the furthest one. They had 2 jungle run stages. So you had a mix of every style of 3-gun you could possibly shoot, and you had it at one match.
Right. For me, I'm left-handed, so usually the only complaint I ever have is the stages are always right-hander friendly. But that wasn't the case here. The stages were set up where as a lefty, I had options to engage targets. I didn't have to lean hard around walls and that kind of thing. The only thing that really concerned me as a left-handed shooter was out of the SWAT van. The way I had to, the way I went prone to try to engage that left target, that far left target, my comp was real close to the edge of the door. But it was the only angle I could really get. And I thought to myself, okay, I may have to shoot this one target right-handed. But I was able to kind of move my leg up to the side a little bit and get in the position and engage that target pretty quick. But I have no complaints as a lefty. I mean, it was a solid match. It was, the stages were well thought out, and Jason Buddy and John Sherbert and the guys who did all the stage design really thought about the competitor, and they made the stages competitor friendly, and they made them enjoyable to shoot.
And, for those people who, care about prize table, prize bags, they did the top 25%, but,
Right.
Everybody did get a grab bag. And, there were some really good certificates in those grab bags. Some people got whole rifles. Some people got,
Right.
they got
I saw that. I
$400
saw some.
off. Yeah, they got $400 off of, Hunter's HD Gold sunglasses. They took care of the competitors. They took care of everybody.
I received a nice Dyer holster and gear complete package for a holster, pistol mags, and rifle mag, and I want to say that that's valued somewhere around $300+, and I really appreciate their holsters and gear and supporting the match and donating to the match. And matter of fact, my buddy Eric, he received the same cert. So we never thank the sponsors enough, and we need to make sure, and especially new shooters, they need to make sure that they thank the sponsors and the match staff and that. And I appreciate. It was neat. It was definitely, it was along the lines of the way Memorial does it. I think they started that last year with the random draw bag, and then the top 25%. And I was hoping to have that top 25%, but shooting the match the way I did, and in a quick format, shooting 4 stages real fast on Friday, I had some rifle issues. I think, and come to find out, it was like my gas block had shifted a little bit, which, when you're on the clock and you're going bolt action there and you're racking those rounds, it's like, what the heck? And I worked through, I thought it was my trigger, I thought it was my buffer spring, and come to find out, once I finally broke it all down, it was my gas block had shifted a time, but just backed off a little bit. And so I wasn't getting enough gas to reset to cycle the next round and reset my hammer, but I got it squared away now. But next year it's on for battle for the South for sure. I'm going to have Northern Yankee guy come down there and win. Yeah. Jeremy Gresham calls me Yankee all the time, but I'm in Maryland. Maryland's below the PA or the Mason-Dixon line, so we're considered a southern state.
I would say that's more northern in my opinion, but
yeah,
okay.
That's what everybody in Virginia South says that. Yeah.
I'm from Miami, Florida originally, and people are like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, "Well, I'm from North Cuba," and people are like, "Wait, what?" I was like, I'm probably from the most southern northern state there is. Like Miami is not the South. It's more, it's like New York, California, something like that,
Yeah.
But you
North Cuba is the perfect way to describe Miami.
Yep. And you go into Central Florida, you're back in the country. Like you better be watching yourself. You're hog hunting, you're doing all the country boy type things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. Looking for anacondas that are wild in the Everglades and
done that.
Yeah.
Caught gators on fishing lines.
That's where I think we're going to end up once I retire. My wife likes the beach a lot, so she likes that Gulf Coast side, like the Clearwater, Tampa area. So I like the mountains. She likes the beach, and I think we have both compromised. We're going to sell our house and get a small place down there on the Gulf somewhere, and then get a small place in the mountains, either in West Virginia or North Carolina.
Okay.
Somewhere like that, Virginia, along the Appalachian there and Skyline Drive area. So
hell yeah.
It just depends on where my kids end up, I guess. So yeah.
Or you could come out closer to where I'm at in Spotsylvania, and you're an hour away from like the Shenandoah National Park. All that kind of
that's
stuff.
Beautiful country there. Beautiful country. My daughter is big into she's getting ready to graduate college. She's a environmental wildlife some kind of major, I don't know. But she's like, Dad, I'm going to take this backpacking trip. I'm going to go down the Skyline Drive to Shenandoah and do this backpacking thing. And I was like, you know what? I think I better go with you the first time. I'm a little concerned about you going on your own. And we went, and I tell you, it was awesome doing this experience with her. I want to say we did like 8, maybe 10-mile hike, camped overnight, hiked out. But we had a storm. We had a thunderstorm roll through there, and I could hear it in the distance. It's like 0-100 hours. I could hear it in the distance, and I thought to myself, "Oh my God, please go around us." And it was like a tornado went right through where we were at. I kept thinking, if this rain fly comes off, we are done. We're soaked. And the storm rolls out, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear a big stick break. And I thought to myself, that is not a squirrel. I've been in the woods deer hunting. I know what squirrels sound like. That is not a squirrel. And it's getting closer, and I can hear all these other sticks break. And I thought to myself, because she wanted me to pack out as light as we could go. And I had a M&P and with a TLR-1 Streamlight on it. I thought, I'm going to take this pistol. It's the only light mounted pistol I have. So I took this pistol and stuck it in my pack with a spare mag. And I can hear this thing get closer, closer. I said, this is a freaking black bear. And I just knew it was a bear, and it was getting closer and closer. And I pulled that pistol out and I had it up against her tent. And I thought to myself, this is a brand new freaking tent. If I shoot a hole in here, she's going to be pissed. She's never going to forgive me. And I thought, I got to do it though, because if it gets close enough, I'm going to have to shoot this thing. And sure enough, I could hear it breathing, and it was like probably within 5 yards of us. And I thought, please just don't. And I hit the light real quick, and I don't know if the light kind of deterred it or what, but it just kind of moved on and went away. And she said, "Oh, I heard something last night. I think it was a squirrel." I said, "No, babe, that was no squirrel. That was no squirrel for sure." She said, "Well, I was worried about it being a bear, and I didn't want to think it was a bear." I said, "Well, this is why I didn't want you coming by yourself the first time, but it was a good experience. She learned a lot. I had her make fire and that kind of stuff. And so she's definitely got some life skills out of it, things that I feel comfortable that if she goes on her own, she'll be fine.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's important.
Beautiful country there.
And that's something that you two will remember for the rest of your lives.
Oh yeah. That's a beautiful area you're in for sure.
So so you just shot your first major match of the season. What other matches do you have planned this year?
So I have on my schedule the Tar Heel Challenge. It's coming up that Donnie Flo's doing down there at the Clinton House. If you're not, if people aren't familiar with that, Donnie has taken over the old Tar Heel Challenge that they used to do at Woody's. It was the first major match I ever shot. I think a lot of the guys on the East Coast, it was kind of like where they got their feet wet with 3 gun for major matches, that and the FN match. And Donnie has taken that over, and I'm really looking forward to that because I know Clinton House has done some huge improvements. They just had USPSA multi-gun nationals there. They've really expanded that range. They've made a lot of new bays. They have a lot of huge bays that are like 100, 200 yards, like 100-yard wide. A lot of natural terrain. They shoot a mile, and you can shoot a mile there. They do that for the Pro-Am. So I'm really looking forward to that match. Shooting the 3-man 3-gun again this year. I helped Dean out with that by ROing that match. I always try to RO at least one major match a year. So right now it's just going to be the 3-man 3-gun. My team always ROs that match because they're a bunch of local guys, and so we help out there. Mid-Atlantic multi-gun match at York in York, PA in June. Which is a really good, it's like a 7-stage match. You can shoot it all in one day, and they do Lewis class scoring there. So you pick your percentage, and it's a cash payout. So all the competitor fees, entry fees, are paid out to the winners. And I think, in years past, they paid all the way out to 50%. So there was a lot of prize money that was handed out there at that match. After that, it's just a lot of local 3-gun matches with the York Point Series, the IWI Point Series. I'm getting into a gas gun series, and I wanted to do that to work on my long range shooting for 3-gun. I thought that was going to be a good skill to really pressure myself to shoot small targets. We're going to be shooting like 1 and 2 MOA targets out to 700 yards. So I wanted to use my 3-gun rifle in the recce division and shoot that. So I'm going to do that. One of the requirements is you have to RO that match. So I'm going to be ROing their Pro-Am match that's coming up this Saturday at the New Holland Rifle and Pistol Club. And then I really want to shoot Fort Benning this year. Every year I try to shoot different major matches. Last year I didn't get to really shoot a whole lot because I had 2 kids in college, and that's 2 out-of-state tuition bills is
Ain't cheap.
ungodly expensive. So I really didn't get to travel a whole lot and shoot major matches. So my goal this year is to shoot Fort Benning, because every year I want to shoot a different major match. I really like to shoot Donnie's Pro-Am and the Memorial match this year, but again, it's like scheduling conflicts for me. So when I retire next year, I'll be able to get back in the Memorial match, Memorial 3 gun, to help them out. I'm one of their brand ambassadors and ambassadors for that. And it's if people aren't familiar with that, it's a phenomenal foundation that gives back to Gold Star families, families that have service members that were killed in their special forces community. So they do fantastic work for the families, and it's just a great thing. That match is, if you've never shot it, you need to shoot it. If you can't shoot it, work it as an RO so you can shoot it. Because they bring the families in, and they talk about their loved ones that they lost, and it's a tough thing. It's tough to listen to these family members, but you really have a great respect for what our military does for us, and what these families sacrifice. I mentioned earlier, our spouses are the true heroes here, and what these family members endure losing their loved ones is tough, and this is just a little way to give back for them. And so I always try to give back to them and help them out. But by then we're like in November. So November here in the north is tough because it is bitter cold. And
Yes.
Usually we start getting our first snow in November. And there's times where, like, once I got that dissonant shotgun this year, I hurry up and got to the range, and they were like, good luck in the back pits, because there was about 2 inches of ice, and the entire pits were covered in ice.
Ooh.
And there was a little bit of snow. So I basically just stood as, and I didn't take, like, I have these little slip-on ice things you just put on your shoes, and I didn't think to take them. So I almost ate it twice, but I was like, I got to try this shotgun out, and I ran a couple mags through it, and I tried my luck there on the ice. But it's tough to shoot in the northern states in the wintertime. So usually November is about the end for me, and then it becomes strictly like basement dry fire type stuff.
Oh, awesome. Well,
yeah.
I appreciate you coming on here, and I appreciate everything that you've told the listeners. Is there anything that you would like to leave the listeners with? Any words of advice?
Yes. New shooters. If you're a new shooter getting into sport, ask questions. I ask people questions so much that, like, they stopped taking my phone calls, because I was like jumping in with 2 feet, and I just wanted to absorb as much as I could. Ask questions. This community is fantastic. The shooting community, the 3-gun community, any shooting sports, people are willing to help you. You'll run into a couple people that are kind of, I don't want to say abrasive or uppity, but they may not help you out as much, but they are far and few in between. So if you're a new shooter, ask questions, reset. If you're a new shooter, even if you're a seasoned shooter, reset. I think Jerry said it best. He said that shooting is optional, resetting is mandatory. Everybody wants to sit down when it's hot. Nobody wants to run the timer. Nobody wants to run the tablet. But without volunteers, the shooting sports are going to go away. So that's why I try to give back, and I would encourage new shooters and other shooters to give back at least one match a year, to help out at their local level. Give back as much as they can. And resetting for me is a huge pet peeve. I mean, you got folks who will reset like 2 targets, pace 2 targets at the front of the stage, and then go sit down like they've done a whole lot. And there's other targets that need to be paced. There's other knockdown steel that need to be picked up. There's at the far end of the bay, you'll have knockdown steel, you'll have clays, you'll have whatever. Don't just pace 2 targets. Walk to the end of that stage and help your squad out, and be a good squad mate by walking the whole stage and helping reset not only your little piece, but somebody else's, because whoever that shooter was is not doing the same job they were doing before. So that's one thing I would like to impart on shooters is, just be that good squad mate and help your squad out. Reset.
One of the things that we used to do, or that we do on the shooting team whenever I was in charge of the action team, is we would make resetting a competition. Who could reset the most targets? Like, and you'd see guys just sprinting right out there.
I tell you what, Matt, that was always a highlight to see. Anytime the Marine Corps team was at the 3-man 3-gun or an FN or, anything locally that I was able to shoot with you guys, I used to think to myself, man, when I was that young, I could run like that and I could do all that stuff. And I was always impressed at how hard you guys work every stage, every match, and how much the Marine Corps team gives back to the shooting sports. It's just phenomenal, what you guys have done. And I know that that's going to carry on once you retire. And the new guys coming up, after you they're going to see what you guys did, you older seasoned guys, and they're going to take that and they're going to pass it on to the guys coming in after them.
No, I'm excited to see where they go. It's going to be exciting, especially with Alex Goking, Staff Sergeant Goking. He's in charge of the 3-gun team now, and he's basically like, he's read my mind on things I wanted to do, and he's like, I'm doing it. Let's do this. Like, we're there. Right. And it's exciting to see.
Yep.
But anyways, I appreciate everyone listening. George, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate this conversation. I appreciate your friendship, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Well, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to have me on your show, and it's great listening to all your podcasts, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and to hopefully give something to somebody, a listener that may not have thought of something, or didn't know about a match, or didn't know about the Memorial 3-Gun Foundation or things like that. Hi, babe.
My daughter just showed up on camera.
So I do appreciate it, and I wish you all the best with your show. It's a great show.
No, I appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing where you go whenever you retire.
Absolutely, brother. We'll see each other on the range.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank you.